Hey guys, Julie here. We're going to be painting our sunrise version of this. So we have a sunrise, a sunset, and then like a fall. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I'm sure I will paint other versions of this. And if you are inspired, feel free to use this design. And this one, I'm going to be using 5 colors. You could probably get away with 4, but I want to just have that bright kind of look of the sun, you know, rising, the soft pastel colors. And also this one reads a little spring as well. The very first way that I was inspired to paint this kind of idea, this style, was actually for a bridal part. Well, it's for the whole wedding party, I guess. So it's not really a bridal party, but the bride's wedding colors were very beautiful and pastel and soft and kind of had a spring feel to it. And so then I'm like, oh, this reminds me of like the sunrise. And so this is kind of how it started. But I'm coming in here and I'm using Thicket to paint this first mountain range. And then we're going to add in some grasses. So I'm just using a 1-inch flat brush to come in here and paint this. Okay, now for the grass and the flowers, where they will be, where happy little flowers will live, as Bob Ross would say, you can either use this flat brush and just hold it up and down, or you can also go and use a medium brush or even your detail brush. But we want to get a lot of grass in there kind of quickly, so I'm going to use my big brush and just kind of hold it up and down and do quick kind of swipes. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take a little bit of a sunny day yellow, and using that same brush that already has that color on it, dip it in, and then I'm going to just start doing these really quick kind of wispy lines, these real quick lines, and it looks like grass. As that yellow blends in with that gray has some blue tones in it, and blue and yellow make green. So you're going to start to see some green, and then the brighter areas of yellow look like highlights. But I'm doing this pretty quickly, and you'll notice that I'm filling in this whole area. So you don't want to have any naked canvas. And you're going to want to give your painters maybe just 1 or 2 songs, if you play music at your paint parties, to do this step, because you want that dark gray to still be wet. So that way, as you dip your brush in the yellow and drag it up, it blends in with that wet gray paint. So like I said, just don't let them kind of become perfectionists at this step. Just let them know, hey, this is just the kind of base layer for this step. You know, you want to kind of do it quickly. And if it starts to dry, they can dip their brush in a little bit of that dark gray and mix it. But one thing I like to do is kind of arch these few lines on the outside, kind of have them arch in, and then kind of come in here and go in different directions, because this is grass and nature, and it doesn't all grow straight up and down. And you can have a couple of these that go kind of tall. And once again, if that feels like there's just no control, you can use your kind of medium round brush and do the same thing. It's just this holds more paint. So we're kind of going for that look, and then we're going to just let that dry. So once again, make sure your painters don't become perfectionists at this point, or if you're painting this, don't become a perfectionist at this point. Just, we want those 2 colors to dry. We can add some darker and lighter kind of low lights and highlights later. But now we're going to come up here to the sky. And this is, once again, my favorite. I'm a morning person. Maybe you're not. My husband is not. And we give each other a lot of grace. I tone down my morning, you know, energy, and he gives me, you know, I give him some time to wake up, and he gives me a little grace if I'm a little excited and, you know, try and not talk a million miles an hour, but still talk a million miles an hour. And then especially if I'm caffeinated, holy moly. Okay, so I'm going to actually use my medium round brush, just because we're going to be painting in yellow around the horizon line, so where that mountains and sky meet, and then we're going to blend it into a little bit of this really pretty kind of blush coral is actually the name of the color, but it describes it well because it's a coral color, but it's a real soft version of that. So once again, just coming in here with some yellow, and once again, let your painters know that they're going to have their yellow and their kind of salmon color mix, and so they want to do this step kind of quickly so it doesn't dry. And if it does, they can always go back and add more yellow, but you can just add a nice generous layer right here. And I go about halfway up. It doesn't have to be precise, but like I said, a nice generous layer. And then I'm going to come in with that kind of soft, like I said, kind of, it's almost like a salmon. I'm going to paint this top in here. And then where those two colors meet, just run your brush back and forth, kind of going up and down, and they'll start to blend. And you'll get this beautiful transition from that soft golden kind of early morning yellow into this beautiful, I guess, it kind of salmony blush color, coral color. And once again, if your paint dries, just add more yellow paint, wet yellow paint, and then go back and forth between those two layers. Just paint in the sky and blend until your heart is happy. And like I said, just blend whenever, to whatever stage you like it. If you want it more streaky, if you want it more blended. But that is our beautiful, beautiful sunrise. You know, the first colors of the morning coming through. So now we're going to paint our next mountain range and then this one. Now this you can either, this one we're going to be using sea glass. Once again, it's another soft kind of early morning color. It's actually one of my favorite colors. Something about it just, it's very calming and soothing. It's a very, very tranquil color. Almost like a sage, like a light sage maybe, or a mint. Okay, and then we're going to mix this thicket and the sea glass to make a kind of like a lighter gray. It's still going to be on the greenish blue side because, like I said, that's a bluish gray, and you're mixing it with a light green. But you just want something kind of in the middle of those two colors, and mix a big puddle of it because you have a big area to paint. And you don't want to run out and have to remix, so mix a big, big, big puddle, probably more than you think you'll need. That's a good rule of thumb, is what I tell my painters. And you can also pre-mix it if you want for your paint parties, if you don't want to have your painters have to mix. But it's actually kind of fun because it makes them feel like part of the artistic process. You know what I mean? Mixing their own color. I'll kind of joke, I'm like, it's like art science. But like I said, just a color halfway between those two. Okay, so this is still a little bit wet on mine, so I'm going to let this dry. When you're teaching this at a paint party, they're not going to paint this fast, so this will dry, but I'm going to zap this real quick. Okay, this down here is dry enough for us to do our flowers, and so we're going to start and do our tall flowers with a little bit of that coral blush. And I just get my little brush and I dip it in that. And if you want, you can dip it in a little bit of yellow just to kind of give you a little bit of variation. But mainly you want this beautiful coral blush. And like I said, I kind of pretend like it's a duck that walked through a puddle. And as I get closer to the top, I just use less pressure and then just end with one cute little dot at the end. And I do some of them tall, some of them short. Sometimes I'll kind of have them bend to one direction. Don't overthink it. I'll make this one really tall. So I start off kind of thicker with my blobs, my little duck prints. And then as I get closer to the top, I just use less pressure and boop right there. And I kind of cluster them. So there's 3. I might do 2. So right here. I leave a little space between the 2 of them. Or in the little clusters here, you can see there's a little more yellow in that. That's fine. Like I said, you just want variation as the sun's coming up and everything's kind of waking up. All the colors are coming out. Really pretty. So I have 3, 2, and I might do like 4 here, 4 or 5. Like I said, I leave a little space in between the clusters so that way We can go back and add our other shapes of flowers. Just like that. Maybe I'll do 2 little ones and then another tall one. Just don't overthink it. And if you know you're going to make a one that's tall, start off with bigger blobs, but you can always go back and add a second layer. It doesn't have to be perfect. One, a little one right here. Maybe it doesn't go all the way up. Oh, how about this? We're going to be fancy. We're going to have this one go off the side of the canvas. So that one kind of bends and you don't see where it goes. So there's our tall flowers. And now I'm going to go back to my medium round, and I'm going to use a lot of yellow. And every once in a while, I might dip my brush in just a tiny bit of this sea glass. It has a little bit of a greenish color kind of tint to it. So you don't want to make it too muddy. You want the flower to be nice and bright yellow, but just have a little bit of that kind of color. Maybe kind of just, and it almost kind of reads as like a bluish color. I kind of put a couple of these, and what I do is I make a C shape and then like a backward C shape, or like parentheses, but they touch. And sometimes I'll use a lot of pressure and make fat ones, and sometimes I'll just maybe do like a little side blob. Maybe it's a little, bud that hasn't quite opened yet. And I kind of do them lower into the blades of grass, but you can also do them up top too. Don't be afraid to, but I kind of cluster them together. Flowers kind of have a tendency to do that in nature. So just however many make you happy. And then I love to go in with the back part of my paintbrush handle, and I'm going to do just this coral blush color by itself. And I do little dots, and you have different size paintbrushes, different size paintbrushes with different size handles. And so you can use a smaller one for different colors, but I just kind of do little groups of 2 or 3, and these might be, petals floating around, or maybe they're just smaller variety of flowers. Every once in a while I can have one by itself. And then I go in, and like I said, I'm going to use a smaller brush handle, and I might do that bright yellow. Like I said, less is more, but you want this whole area to be kind of filled and vibrant. And then I'm going to go in with this dark gray with my brush and just put a little dab in the center of a couple of these. You don't have to do it to all of them. Maybe some's turned the opposite direction, maybe someone's on its side, but just do a couple of them. You can do that. And then if you want to add stems with that same kind of dark gray, you can kind of add a few lines. It might look like stems if you want. This is one where you like paint a little bit, take a step back and look at it from distance, paint a little bit. But that is our sunrise. Isn't that so fun? So I hope you guys love this. I hope you teach it, and I hope you paint it.